Which place in the world do you think is the most humane? I guess you would say Europe. Airbus respects the work of airport designers, and the A340 glued every inch of the runway during takeoff. Ryanair respects the work of aircraft designers, and their planes use the full shock absorption capability of the landing gear during each landing. Today, let's talk about a famous phenomenon in aviation: hard landing. First, let's look at the definition. It refers to when an aircraft experiences excessive vertical acceleration upon landing. I must mention that a similar concept to hard landing is overweight landing, which refers to when an aircraft's total weight exceeds the maximum landing weight. One concerns acceleration, the other concerns weight. A hard landing, how hard is considered hard, varies with different aircraft, but it's generally around 2.1 times gravitational acceleration, or 2.1 g. If it exceeds 2.1, the aircraft might be damaged and will need a thorough maintenance check. If it doesn't exceed 2.1, the aircraft might not be damaged, but that doesn't mean the passengers won't be. That's why airlines usually have stricter regulations, such as requiring the vertical acceleration during landing not to exceed 1.7, otherwise passengers might complain. So when does a hard landing occur? It's simple. Landing is the process where the ground provides an upward force to gradually reduce the aircraft's downward speed to zero. This process can be summarized by a formula you learned in middle school, the momentum theorem, mv equals ft, which can be rearranged to f divided by equals v divided by t. What is f divided by m? Newton said, this is the acceleration that makes your butt hurt. So, if the vertical speed v is too high or the landing time t is too short, it will lead to a hard landing. When you were a kid sneaking into internet cafes, you had to be skillful when landing, learning to absorb the impact, which is essentially extending the landing time to t. Otherwise, you'd have a hard landing and your ankles and knees would suffer. As for why some planes deliberately hit the runway hard, it's because as long as it doesn't exceed the manufacturer's threshold, the harder the landing, the better. Think about what an aircraft fears most when landing. First, crosswinds, which can cause the plane to drift and be blown off course. Second, standing water on the runway, which creates a water film between the plane and the runway, making it easy to skid, hard to brake, and prone to veering off course. You should know this well from driving in the rain. In such cases, the safest operation is to slam the plane onto the runway to break through the water film and prevent skidding. Passengers endure a sore butt for a safe landing, and pilots endure it to stop early and finish work sooner. As long as the plane isn't damaged, it's a win. Take Ryanair in Europe, for example. It's a budget airline, so they save money wherever they can. They often fly to the UK and Northern Europe, where it's frequently rainy. So pilots have developed the habit of slamming the plane onto the runway. But in fact, Ryanair has an excellent safety record. With hundreds of planes and 40 years of operation, they've never had a fatal accident. One of the most famous cases in recent years was in 2019 when a Delta Airlines Boeing 757 had a hard landing. Although there was no fire and no one was injured, the plane suffered severe structural damage, most notably wrinkling of the fuselage skin. You might wonder, why does wrinkling occur? Good question. This wrinkling has a technical term in structural mechanics called buckling, which refers to the sudden deformation and instability of a structure under stress. It's most common in slender rod structures and thin-walled structures, and the fuselage skin is a typical thin-walled structure. If you want to experience buckling yourself, it's simple. Buy a can of soda, drink it, and then crush it with your foot. That process is a typical example of buckling. To the excellent structural engineers watching, I'm sure you consider buckling in your designs. So, how do you take it into account? I often recommend the finite element simulation software, AES-FEM, which can calculate structural buckling. You should give it a try.